हरे कृष्णा। सभी भक्तों का स्वागत है। शुक्रवार के एक साप्ताहिक सत्संग कार्यक्रम में भगवद गीता अध्याय 2 पर चर्चा चल रही है। गीता का सार आज हम लेने वाले हैं 64 एंड 65 भी लेना पड़ेगा प्रतिशत। सभी लोग मेरे पीछे दोहराइए। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तम श्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिकीम् कृष्णाय वासुदेवाय देवकी नंदनाय च नंदगोपकुमाराय गोविंदाय नमो नमः। 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 अध्याय 2 श्लोक क्रमांक 64। rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati
rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān
indriyaiṣ-caran
ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam
adhigacchati rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais viṣayān indriyaiṣ-caran ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati। हरे कृष्ण। और कोई न्यू चिल्ड्रन राइट पढ़ा? नो you can try. No. Hare Krishna. So we'll take word to word meaning. राग,
राग,
आसक्ति,
आसक्ति,
द्वेष
द्वेष
तथा वैराग्य से
तथा वैराग्य से
विमुक्त
विमुक्त
मुक्त रहने वालों से
मुक्त रहने वाला से
तू
तू
लेकिन
लेकिन
विषयान
विषयान
इंद्रिय विषयों को
इंद्रिय विषयों को
इंद्रियों के द्वारा
इंद्रियों के द्वारा
चरण
चरण
भोगता हुआ
भोगता हुआ
आत्मवश्य
आत्मा-वाśyair
अपने वश में
अपने वश में
विधेयात्मा
विधेयात्मा
नियमित स्वाधीनता पालक
नियमित स्वाधीन
प्रसादम
प्रसादम
भगवत कृपा को
भगवत कृपा को
अधिगच्छति
adhigacchati
प्राप्त करता है।
प्राप्त करता है।
मेरे पीछे दोहराइए। किंतु अनुवाद तात्पर्य वेसी भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी शिला प्रभुपाद की जय। किंतु
किंतु
समस्त राग
समस्त राग
तथा द्वेष से
तथा देश से
मुक्त
मुक्त
एवं
एवं
अपनी इंद्रियों को
अपनी इंद्रियों को
संयम
संयम
द्वारा
द्वारा
वश में करने में
वश में करने में
समर्थ व्यक्ति
समर्थ व्यक्ति
भगवान की पूर्ण कृपा प्राप्त कर सकता है।
प्राप्त कर सकता है।
पढ़िए।
तात्पर्य यह पहले ही बताया जा चुका है कि कृत्रिम विधि से इंद्रियों पर बाह्य रूप से नियंत्रण किया जा सकता है, किंतु जब तक इंद्रियां भगवान की दिव्य सेवा में नहीं लगाई जाती तब तक नीचे गिरने की संभावना बनी रहती है। यद्यपि पूर्णतः कृष्ण भावना भावित व्यक्ति ऊपर से विषयी स्तर पर क्यों ना दिखे, किंतु कृष्ण भावना भावित होने से वह विषय कर्मों से आसक्त नहीं होता। उसका एकमात्र उद्देश्य तो कृष्ण को प्रसन्न करना रहता है, अन्य कुछ नहीं। अतः वह समस्त आसक्ति तथा विरक्ति से मुक्त होता है। कृष्ण की इच्छा होने पर भक्त सामान्यतः अवांछित कार्य भी करता है, किंतु यदि कृष्ण की इच्छा नहीं है तो वह उस कार्य को भी नहीं करेगा जिसे वह सामान्य रूप से अपने लिए करता हो। अतः कर्म करना या ना करना उसके बस में रहता है, क्योंकि वह केवल कृष्ण के निर्देश के अनुसार ही कार्य करता है। यदि चेतना भगवान की अहेतुकी कृपा है, जिसकी प्राप्ति भक्त को इंद्रियों से आसक्त होते हुए भी हो सकती है।
हरे कृष्ण। एक पीछे वाला भी ले लेते हैं। प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां
प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां
हानिरस्योपजायते
हृदयस्योपजायते
प्रसन्न-चेतसो ह्याश्रु
प्रसन्ना-चेतसो ह्याश्रु
बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते
बुद्धिर्पर्यवतिष्ठते
प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां
प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां
हानिरस्योपजायते
हृदयस्योपजायते
प्रसन्न-चेतसो ह्याश्रु
प्रसन्ना-चेतसो ह्याश्रु
बुद्धिर्पर्यवतिष्ठते
बुद्धिर्पर्यवतिष्ठते
प्रसादे सर्वदुःखानां
प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां
निरस्योपजायते
हानिरस्योपजायते
प्रसन्नचेतसो ह्याशु
प्रसन्न-चेतसो ह्याश्रु
पर्यवस्थिते
बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते प्रसादे सर्व-दुःखानां हानिरस्योपजायते प्रसन्न-चेतसो ह्याशु बुद्धिपर्यवतिष्ठते। कृष्ण। प्रसादे भगवान की अहेतुकी कृपा प्राप्त होने पर सर्व सभी दुःखानां भौतिक दुखों का हानि क्षय नाश अस्य उसके उपजायते होता है। प्रसन्न-चेतस प्रसन्न चित्त वाले की ही निश्चय ही आशु तुरंत बुद्धि पर्याप्त अवतिष्ठते स्थिर हो जाती है। अनुवाद बाय श्री भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी श्रील प्रभुपाद के द्वारा श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। इस प्रकार कृष्ण भावनामृत में तुष्ट व्यक्ति के लिए संसार के तीनों ताप नष्ट हो जाते हैं और ऐसी तुष्ट चेतना होने पर उसकी बुद्धि शीघ्र ही स्थिर हो जाती है। ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुं श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरुं वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सगणा ललितान् श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कान्त राधा कान्त नमोस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्णा। So last week we took 62 and 63, which was one of the last. प्रभु जी नहीं आए क्या? या फोन में? Okay. 62 और 63 लिए थे हम लोगों ने, which was one of the last shlokas of Kim Asita, on the question of Kim Asita. So we'll just recollect what did we do, because it was very important shloka for all of us in our life. Actually, we face that. So how we can avoid falling into that trap was what we discussed. So we'll just discuss some few points and then we'll come to this. Yes.
These stages where one fall down to material and faculty if not control the senses.
Yes. No, if you're not controlling the senses at the first stage itself only, then automatically 8 stages follow. All the 8 stages you remember?
Contemplation, deep attachment,
Okay.
Lust,
thus
That is anger.
and then
delusion,
and delusion, and then loss of memory, and then loss of intelligence.
then pranashya.
Pranashati, yes.
Ladder of fall down.
Ladder of fall down is called. So 8 stages of fall down, or ladder of fall down. So any specific points you remember?
And the solution to avoid this fall down is yukta vairagya.
And yes, the solution to is always remember Krishna or always remember Vishnu, so that we don't have to fall down, right? So unless we do asita mat paraha, because that was what the consequence. Like Krishna said in 61 that connect everything through me, and then only you will be able to conquest your senses. If you do not do asita mat para, then all the possible chances that you will again fall back into the material pool. So जो आदतें आप छोड़ना चाहते थे वापस से आदतों को पकड़ के बैठ जाएंगे. So that was the whole concept why these 2 shlokas were spoken, right? So we discussed something about brain therapy also, right? Brain. Yeah. So we compared the hard wiring in the brain with that of the hardware and software, right? Brain is like a hardware and the mind is like a software. So similarly, computer which has a hardware as well as software. So the moment you on the computer, what happens? Some default programs which are already set automatically starts. You don't have to do anything and they start off. So similarly, whenever the senses see its respective objects, and that too in a very, way which is very titillating to you, or which is very appealing to you, then you automatically go and grab those objects. And that is where exactly what you grab depends on the default program. Depends on the impressions. Hare Krishna Mataji, welcome Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. बहुत दिनों बाद में हरी बोल. How was your India trip? बहुत लंबा चले गए इस बार. So yeah, so we're discussing. I was talking on brain pattern. So how does that pattern gets developed within the brain? It's like, when you are attached to some kind of experiences, and those experiences throw up in front of you in some kind of pattern. And that is where exactly people, if they are attached to some particular thing, how they would respond. If they are not attached, okay, so then they have option either to choose or not to choose. Or if they are not even attached, they may not feel. So if they are attached, then they will go ahead and grab the thing, grab that object. So this way they will respond, and once they respond, then automatically other 8 stages would follow, right? Dhyayato viṣayān pumsan. The moment you do contemplation on the viṣayān, that is objects, pumsan is the person, sangas asyopajāyate, you develop attachment. Sangat sanjayate kama, and that attachment will lead to deep desires, infatuation, passion, lust. That will lead to lust. And then lust, if unfulfilled, gives rise to anger. Because if you wanted something and you don't, children do cry, but then for them we don't say lust, because they cry out because of their heart, So okay, they want to, but you can call, but then it is not exactly we'll have to. So lust then develops into anger, and anger leads to delusion, sammoha. You get sammoha, means you get deluded, completely lost. 1 second के लिए fuse उड़ जाता है, and you start shouting whatever you want to. We took the example of a machine also, which trips off. Like that, similarly, the brain also trips off and it just forgets. Smriti Vibhrama, then comes the stage Smriti Vibhrama. It forgets in front of you. You have a mother, sister, father. कुछ भी पता नहीं. Smriti Vibhrama. And Smriti Vibhrama leads to loss of intelligence. Smriti Vibhrama means also, Smriti means also refers to Shastras, or the wordings of the Shastras, or the opinion of the Shastras, or your vows to your Guru. So you forget that also. You only remember what is the enjoyable part of it in that, and rest all you want to forget. When it happens, then that assimilation which the buddhi does, intelligence does, to dissect what is good, what is bad, that also is lost, because there itself it is lost and it is only selective. The intelligence is also lost. Okay, once intelligence is lost, we fall back into the material. Again, we go back to the same habits which we were trying to avoid. And that is why, to avoid that, we said smartavamyam satatam vishnor vismartamnya jatuchet. The kabhi bhi hame, we should never forget Vishnu in all circumstances. Even if we are honoring food outside, just three times Vishnu, 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 Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, and honor it. Otherwise, you will have karma bandhana. That is where exactly attachment comes up. Or we had also taken the shlokana of Yasya Smaran Matrena Janma Sansara Bandhana. So, we'll come to today's shlok. So, okay. Anything else? Doubt for the last?
प्रैक्टिकल एस्पेक्ट से कैसे होगा? मतलब आप चले कह तो रहे हैं कि हर चीज को आप कृष्ण को हर वक्त याद रखते हैं. हाँ. लेट्स अज्यूम मुझे भाई क्रिकेट में देख रहा हूँ, मुझे बहुत क्रिकेट का शौक, पैशन शौक हुआ. ठीक है, मुझे इसमें रुचि पैदा हुई, ठीक है, मैं क्रिकेट खेलने गया, मैं कह रहा हूँ हाँ कृष्णा अर्पणस्तु और गेम खेलना शुरू कर दिया, ठीक है। फिर मैं बैटिंग करता हूँ, सारा दिन खेलता रहता हूँ, कृष्णा अर्पणस्तु वर्ड बोलता रहता हूँ मुझसे, लेकिन मैं क्रिकेट खेलता रहता हूँ। तो इससे मेरा जो सेंस कंट्रोल कैसे हो रहा है, क्या कहीं से भी मेरे सेंस, हम कह रहे हैं कि हम हर चीज कृष्णा को अर्पण कर दें,
हाँ,
उससे
नहीं
सेंस
नहीं,
कैसे कंट्रोल हो
वो
रहा
अब
है?
आएगा, देखो अब आज आए, अब आएंगे कि कैसे। हमें पहले तो ये बताया था कि आपको इंद्रियों को कंट्रोल में आप नहीं कर सकते जब तक आप उसको कनेक्ट नहीं करोगे विद द हायर पर्पस। ओके, पर्पस जो है अब आएगा। वी शुड नॉट बी ड्रिवन, टुडेज श्लोका विल कम, यू नो इट इज ऑल कनेक्टेड। सी यू गेव अप द एग्जांपल, यू नो लाइक अंदर से खुशी मिलनी चाहिए, वो आएगी आज, आज के इसमें आएगी, अंदर से जो खुशी मिलनी चाहिए वो आज के श्लोकों में आएगी, व्हेन आई डिस्क्राइब ऑन द करंट श्लोकास। सो पर्पस क्या है आपका खेल खेलने का?
भाई देखो मेरा माइंड मुझे ट्रैप कर रहा है, ये कह रहा है कि तू कृष्णा से बोल, कृष्णा पर तू कह देगा ना तो
हाँ,
खुशी हो जाएगा।
no, that is where exactly that is where it will come today. Okay, that is where, see, if you just take only one shloka, sometimes you know it is not exactly in that way you will lead to. What is the ultimate purpose? If you are playing the game, you want to win the game and you want to offer that result to Krishna.
Okay, ये भी कर दे चले।
Yeah, that's fine.
इससे मेरा माइंड कैसे कंट्रोल हुआ?
क्या?
इससे मेरा माइंड कंट्रोल नहीं हो रहा ना, मैं तो
किसका?
रोज क्रिकेट खेलता रहता हूँ सारा दिन। इससे मेरा माइंड या इससे मेरी बॉडी या मेरी सेंसेस, हम तो ये बात कर रहे हैं, अभी हम बात ये चल रही है कि सेंसेस को कैसे कंट्रोल करना है।
हाँ,
उससे तो मेरा सेंस कंट्रोल ही नहीं हो रहा, मैं तो वही कर रहा हूँ, मैं क्रिकेट टाइम वेस्ट कर रहा हूँ मैं क्रिकेट खेलने में, या मैं अपनी सारी बुद्धि अपनी सारे जोश उस काम में लगा रहा हूँ।
हाँ,
उससे मुझे लेट्स क्रिकेट को छोड़ता, ऑफिस का काम ले लें,
चलो ठीक
साथ
है।
में ऑफिस के काम में लगा रहता हूँ, बाकी
वो तो ऑफिस का काम तो आपको करना ही है, बिकॉज आपने वो चूज किया है ड्यूटी।
वो तो ऑफिस के वक्त तक किया मैंने।
हाँ,
देखा लोग ऑफिस के घर पे भी करते हैं ना काम,
हाँ,
तो वो काम फिर वहां भी कर रहे हैं,
Yes.
लेकिन गाड़ी चला रहे तब भी ऑफिस का काम याद आ रहा है।
बिल्कुल,
तो
काम तो करना ही है।
वो इसको मैं सिर्फ ये कह दूं, कृष्णा अर्पणस्तु।
ना ना, सही देखो, आप काम किस लिए कर रहे हो? कुछ पैसे कमाने के लिए, राइट? बिना पैसे कमाए के लिए तो आप काम नहीं कर रहे हो। उस कमाई से आप कृष्णार्पण मस्त करो, जो फैमिली पे खर्चा करना है वो फैमिली पे खर्चा करो, ये करो। हाँ,
तो मेरा सेंस कैसे कंट्रोल हो, मुझे समझ नहीं आ रहा।
क्रिकेट खेलना मतलब कोई अपराध नहीं है।
हाँ,
मैं अपराध की बात ही नहीं कर रहा हूँ,
नहीं मैं समझ
मैं तो नॉर्मल लाइफ की बात कर रहा हूँ,
Normal
अपराध की
life
बात ही
की
नहीं।
हाँ, तो नॉर्मल लाइफ में कोई भी चीज हो, कृष्णा भी खेलने जाते थे, देखो कृष्णा भी कैसा खेलते थे, यू कैन कनेक्ट इट।
मेरा सवाल ये, कोई भी एक्टिविटी, मतलब एग्जांपल दी, कोई भी एक्टिविटी आप करो, आप सिर्फ ये वर्ड कहने से कृष्णा अर्पणस्तु, मेरी जो डिजायर है या मेरी जो ख्वाहिश है,
एटलीस्ट
वो
तो
कैसे कंट्रोल हो रही है?
कंट्रोल नहीं, एटलीस्ट वो प्यूरिफाई हो रही है। आप उससे कुछ लेके नहीं जा रहे हो, यू आर नॉट अटैच टू इट, यू आर प्लेइंग इट।
ना मैं
ना अटैच टू
खेल रहा हूँ, सारा दिन गेम कर रहा हूँ, अटैच उससे।
एक satisfaction का element
या
आप खेलते हो, उसकी रिजल्ट
रिजल्ट आपने खत्म,
जैसे आप
आपने दूसरे दिन भी खेलो, दूसरे दिन भी रिजल्ट कर दो।
रुके यहाँ पे, टॉपिक क्या है हमारा? टॉपिक क्या है? हमें सेंसेस कंट्रोल करना है।
यस,
हमारा टॉपिक ये नहीं है कि हमें अपनी सेटिस्फेक्शन चाहिए, यहाँ बात वही नहीं हो रही। मेरा हमारा मीनिंग बोला ये है कि जब आपने सब चीजें हर वक्त आप कृष्णा को सरेंडर कर देंगे, आपके सेंसेस कंट्रोल होंगे, यही बात हो रही है या मैं गलत समझा पहले?
ये
क्या?
अब देखें, सेंस कंट्रोल का मीनिंग क्या है कि आप एक मतलब एक पोजीशन हो, पीस की पोजीशन, आप मतलब
पीस की पोजीशन भी आएगी प्रभु, एक दो श्लोकों बाद में आएगा,
जैसे
डोंट वरी।
आपकी इच्छा थी कि मुझे इस बार पे छक्का मारना है, वो
हाँ।
नहीं लगा तो रिजल्ट अब आप पे इम्पैक्ट करेगा, आप नेक्स्ट बॉल पे आउट हो सकते हो। आपने उसको बोला नहीं यार, मैं अंदर में आप में इतनी सब्र है, पेशेंस है, वो नाम से आ रही है, फिर आप कहीं ना कहीं सस्टेन कर जाओगे, आप अपना टारगेट।
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Some or the other. You will come to know, Prabhu. Okay. See, this sense control will continue up to 72, Prabhu. 72 तक सेंस कंट्रोल ही चलेगा, डोंट वरी अबाउट इट। द क्वेश्चन इज, आपको एक कृष्णा ने बताया था, क्या बताया था कि भाई यू हैव टू कंट्रोल, जिससे भी आपको कंट्रोल करना चाहते हो आप पहले अपना कंट्रोल कीजिए एंड देन डू मत्परा। ओके, कीप कंसिडर मी विद युक्ता विद मी एंड देन ओनली यू विल बी एबल टू कॉन्कर द सेंसेस। तो बात यहाँ पे, राइट? अब आप बोल रहे हो कि मैं मत्परा करते हूँ और मैं कॉन्कर करेंगे नहीं, तो ओके, आपका अटैचमेंट अभी डीप है, वो धीरे धीरे क्लियर होगा प्रभु, लेकिन डोंट वरी अबाउट इट। आज केस पे आते हैं।
बढ़ा रहा हूँ अटैचमेंट को, मैं ये तो कह रहा हूँ, मैं आप कह रहे हैं एक चीज पे आप कॉन्सेंट्रेट करोगे तो आपको राग होगा, राग से द्वेष होगा, द्वेष से क्रोध होगा, क्रोध से मोह होगा। तो मैं बढ़ा ही रहा हूँ, तो मैं तो क्रिकेट में लगा हुआ हूँ, क्रिकेट लगाऊं या मैं ऑफिस के काम में लगा, मैं तो बढ़ा रहा हूँ चीज को। तो खत्म कैसे हो रहा है, प्यूरिफाई कैसे हो रहा है?
खत्म काम तो बढ़ेगा ही ना, दैट्स द होल थिंग प्रभु। कभी भी ये नहीं है कि तो उससे जो आप काम कर रहे हो वो कृष्णा कॉन्शियस एक्टिविटी नहीं है। कौन बोल रहा है?
मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देता हूँ। क्रिकेट आप खेल रहे हैं, जैसे आप क्रिकेट खेलिए, आपका चलिए क्रिकेट आप खेलना, उसमें कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, लेकिन उससे अटैच नहीं होना। जैसे
बस
भगवान, जैसे मान लीजिए कि आप अटैच हो गए, मैच हार गए और आपने घर में आके टीवी फोड़
टीवी
दिया।
नहीं ये
नहीं, मैं
रिजल्ट बोल रहा हूँ, रिजल्ट नहीं होगी तो
अटैचमेंट का मतलब ये है कि आप इंजॉयमेंट के लिए
हाँ
खेलना
enjoyment
है।
के लिए बस।
हाँ खेल लो तो
अरे
कृष्णार्पण
आप
मस्त
जीतो,
करके खेलो, बस
मैं
खत्म।
उतना अच्छा खिलाड़ी नहीं कि मैं सोचूं जीतूं भाई, मैं खेल रहा हूँ बस।
दैट इज नॉट
दैट इज नॉट प्रॉब्लम।
प्रॉब्लम यही है, देखो आप पहली लाइन क्या है, पहली लाइन क्या है, आप जिस पे कंसंट्रेट करते हो उससे मोह हो जाता है, यही लाइन है।
यस।
करेक्ट समझाओ। मेरा मोह है क्रिकेट खेलने में, मेरी अटैचमेंट है क्रिकेट खेलने में, तो मैं इसके अंदर क्रिकेट खेलने में मोह होगा।
मोह होगा, लेकिन अगर उस मोह में आप अंदर घुसते जाएंगे दलदल में,
घुसता जाऊंगा
तो
ना,
फिर निकलना
घुसता ही
मुश्किल
जाऊंगा
है
ना। आप तो खुद ही कह रहे हो घुसता ही,
है ना।
आप भी खुद तो कह रहे हो कि
अरे
मैं करूंगा ये काम तो घुसता ही जाऊंगा।
प्रभु
बाहर
कितना
निकलूंगा।
करोगे? 30 जो भी ओवर है आपका, 30 ओवर जितना 20 ओवर रहता है आजकल, कितना
नहीं
ओवर
खेलूंगा।
मैच रहता है,
एक
उसके ऊपर ही, उसके बाद तो खत्म ही होगा।
एक प्रमादा
देयर इज
जी
ए लिमिटेशन।
आप एक
आपका मोह उतना ही रहेगा।
घर पे आया, मैंने
हाँ।
यूट्यूब लगाया,
ना ना।
देखी, फिर मैं आया ESPN।
हाँ तो एग्जैक्टली वापस भी गो बैक कि आप फ्री टाइम में क्या करना चाहते हो।
काम कर रहे हैं। अब मान लो क्रिकेट खेल रहे हैं, आप ऑफिस में वर्क कर रहे हैं, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं, आपने उस टाइम काम किया, ओके, लेकिन जैसे ही आप उस काम से हट रहे हो तो आपको उसका चिंतन नहीं करना।
Yes, exactly.
मेन थिंग इज दैट कि आपको अपने उस चिंतन को हटाना है वहां से। आपने कुछ भी काम कर लिया, वहीं आप हट जाओ। अगर हट गए तो आपका चिंतन हट गया, तो मोह भी वहीं टूटने
लग गया।
लेकिन अगर कहीं आपने उस काम के बारे में बाद में सोचने लगे, तो वहीं से आपका मोह उत्पन्न हो जाएगा। यदि आपने मान लो क्रिकेट खेला या जो भी काम किया, उसके बाद आप घर पे आए, फिर आप अपने ध्यान में अगर लग गए, तो वहां एक तो आपका वहां से चिंतन हट गया, दूसरा आपने भगवान की भक्ति में अपना ध्यान लगा लिया।
Exactly.
आपका ध्यान भी कन्वर्ट हो जाएगा और धीरे धीरे आपकी भक्ति भी उसकी तरफ चलती जाएगी। जब आपकी भक्ति बढ़ने लगेगी, तो धीरे धीरे आपकी जो मटेरियल चीजें हैं उनसे आपका धीरे धीरे मन हटने लगेगा। एकदम नहीं मन
नहीं
हटेगा प्रभु जी, बट वो धीरे धीरे मन हटता जाएगा। और मेन थिंग इज दैट कि आपने जो भी काम आप करो कर लो, बट उन भोगों का चिंतन नहीं करना।
Exactly.
हम कोई भी
क्योंकि मेन चिंतन पे अटक गए थे।
चिंतन पे जहाँ हम अटके, वहीं से हमारा मोह, क्रोध, लोभ,
सब कुछ हुआ था।
उत्पन्न होता है। बस वो नहीं करना, काम करना।
करेक्ट, आई एग्री, डू एग्री सर। वही मैं बात इतनी देर से ही कर रहा था कि चिंतन जो हम कह रहे थे बात,
हाँ।
कि एक चीज जो हम कर रहे हैं उसको सिर्फ ये कह देने से कि कृष्णन अर्पणस्तु,
हाँ।
ये सोल्यूशन नहीं है। ये जो माता जी ने कहा कि आपको वहां से चिंतन को ब्रेक करना है।
चिंतन पे ही रुक जाना है आपने, उसको ही अवॉइड करना है। मैं चिंतन लास्ट बताया ना कि फर्स्ट स्टेज पर ही आपको स्टॉप देने का है। फर्स्ट स्टेज से आप आगे बढ़ गए, देन ऑटोमेटिक है सब कुछ, फिर तो ऑटोमेटिक है।
एक इनका सवाल भी एक डायरेक्शन में था। जब हम सेंसस कंट्रोल की बात करते हैं तो टर्म आता है नीड ऑफ सिचुएशन। ये कहने में क्रिकेट में तो सारा 24 घंटा बंदा क्रिकेट थोड़ी करेगा, हर चीज की जरूरत होती है, जरूरत के हिसाब से हम
ऐसा नहीं है। अगर आपने किसी चीज का पैशन होगा ना, अगर आपको रियली किसी चीज का पैशन है ना, तो आप 24 घंटे वही सोचते हो।
तो फिर तो पैशन में आप चले गए ना। देखो प्रभु, फिर तो पैशन तक तो चले गए ना आप। तो फिर पैशन तक तो चले गए तो आगे सब आएंगे।
हमें आप एक तरफ आप क्या कह रहे हैं, पैशन में काम करो, पैशन में सब चीजें करो,
हाँ।
दूसरी तरफ आप कहते हो नहीं करो। आप एक
नहीं, उस चीज को से पैशन तक ले जाओगे, लस्ट तक ले जाओगे, तो फिर सारा कुछ होएगा ही ना।
कृष्ण अप्रोच तो कर रहा हूँ ना।
हाँ बने
फिर वही मैं कर रहा हूँ। इससे मेरा वही जो मैं इसी पे डू एग्री मैं माता पे,
हाँ।
कि सिर्फ कृष्ण अर्पणस्तु कहने से कुछ नहीं होगा। हमें यहाँ पे चिंतन को तोड़ना होगा और
प्रभु
को कहीं और भी लगाना होगा।
सब कुछ कृष्णार्पण मस्तु करके अगर आप करते रहोगे तो फिर काम नहीं होगा। ये तो हम भी बोलते आए हैं ना।
लेकिन आप जो बोल रहे हो सही है। एक्चुअली पॉइंट ये है कि आप जो कंटिन्यूअसली थिंक करोगे ना, तो माइंड में आएगा। उसको अपने
शुद्धिकरण के लिए हमको करना पड़ता है। दैट्स ऑल थिंग।
हम लोग कोई ऑफिस का चीज होता है, कोई प्रॉब्लमेटिक, तो हम लोग उसके बारे में सोचते रहेंगे ना, तो कोई कॉमेडी मूवी देखो या तो कोई
नहीं, हमने वो सब चीजें हम लोग जिक्र कर चुके हैं। हम ऑफिस में जाते हैं, किसी के ऊपर निकालते हैं। वी शुड नॉट अलाउ अवर इमोशंस टू कंट्रोल, ओवर पावर दैट, बिकॉज दैट इटसेल्फ इज नॉट द डे। अपना व्हेन वी स्टार्ट द डे, हमें किसी से झगड़ा होकर ऑफिस गए हैं तो ऑफिस का दिन खराब नहीं करना, क्योंकि इट विल अफेक्ट। तो ये सारे इमोशंस पे आ ही जाते हैं। दैट्स ऑल थिंग। आज वापस शुरुआत हुई है, राग द्वेष से ही शुरुआत हो रही है। बिकॉज यही है ना जो पार्ट, राग मींस लाइक अटैचमेंट पे। अटैचमेंट पे आज कृष्णा और आगे बता रहे हैं। So he says going ahead.
आप कह रहे हैं राग द्वेष इतना इजी होता तो अब तक खत्म हो चुका था सबका।
क्या?
किसी का भी राग द्वेष खत्म ही नहीं हो रहा, क्यों नहीं हो रहा है?
तो इसीलिए तो
सब लोग एक प्लेस नहीं है
ऑपरेटर्स भी वही कर रहे हैं ना, सुबह से दोपहर तक
हाँ, दिन भर वही रहता है, वो तो ओपन अप एंड डाउन चालू ही रहता है, उनका तो दिमाग उसी में चालू रहता है, इसीलिए उस चीज से हम दूर रहो बोलते हैं शास्त्र में। हाँ,
युक्त वैराग्य।
तो इसीलिए वही तो, क्योंकि देखो से अब स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का राइट एग्जांपल है, मैं क्रिकेट तो फिर भी छोड़ दो, स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का व्यक्ति को इतना ज्यादा लत लगता है, सुबह निकला शाम तक चला, शाम के दूसरे दिन सुबह लगा, दूसरे दिन शाम तक चला, ही नेवर कम्स आउट। इसलिए जुआ निषेध है, स्ट्रेट अवे बोला हुआ है, वो जुआ ही है एक हिसाब से।
बोल रहा है
आपने उसको कृष्णार्पण वस्तु क्यों करने के, भाई मैं ये फ्यूचर में इससे अगर बढ़ गया तो मैं इसका पैसे से ये काम करूंगा, इसलिए कृष्णा मैं इसमें इन्वेस्ट कर रहा हूं, एंड देन यू डोंट लुक आफ्टर इट। आज डीमैट अकाउंट हमारे भी है, बट वो क्या है कि साल में एक आधा ट्रांजैक्शन करना होता है, वो करके छोड़ देता हूं मैं, बस खत्म।
आप गलत है, ऐसा तो नहीं, बिजनेस है, बिजनेस को आप कैसे कैसे
नहीं, मेरा बिजनेस नहीं है वो,
आपका नहीं है ना।
हाँ,
जो बिजनेस कर रहे हैं,
आप बिजनेस कर रहे हैं तो बिजनेस करो, ठीक है,
बिजनेस ही कर रहा हूँ, चाहे देखेगा ना, बिजनेस में कंसंट्रेट तो करेगा ना, स्टॉक में तो नहीं करेगा।
एक वो एक्टिविटी इसीलिए अवॉइड करो बोल रहे हैं, दैट्स अ होल थिंग, क्योंकि ये जुआ है आप जो कर रहे हो, प्लस माइनस है,
ये गलत कॉन्सेप्ट हमें दिया गया है, इट्स अ प्योर बिजनेस, इट्स अ प्योर बिजनेस
ना।
आप कृष्णा अर्पण वस्तु क्यों बोल रहे हैं?
हाँ, फिर वही तो,
यही तो मेरा भी सवाल है कि सिर्फ कृष्णा अर्पण वस्तु क्यों बोल रहे हैं हम लोग?
वो तो जुआ खेलने का तो कर दिया।
डर है कि अगर मेरा ये पाप, ये पुण्य कर्म है मेरा, और अगर मैं कृष्णा को अर्पण नहीं करता तो कुछ हो सकता है, ये पाप भी
सॉरी, डर और प्यार दोनों साथ में चलते हैं, ये मेरा मतलब बिल्कुल क्लियर है। आप कृष्णा से प्यार करते हैं, कृष्णा से डरते हैं। अगर आप कृष्णा से डर रहे हैं तो प्यार नहीं कर रहे फिर आप। ये मैं इस कॉन्सेप्ट से बिल्कुल डिसएग्री
मैं कृष्णा से डर नहीं समझता हूँ, आपके मन से डर रहा है कि भाई मैं गलत कर रहा हूँ, ये कृष्णा को अर्पण कैसे करूं, माता जी का पॉइंट वो है।
आई डोंट थिंक सो यार, ये सब नहीं है कि डर की वजह से आप कृष्णा के पास जा रहे हैं तो
ना, डर की वजह से नहीं, आपको अपने आप से डर है कि मैं ये गलत काम कर रहा हूँ, तो कृष्णा के सामने कैसे जाऊं।
जीव अपने आप से डर रहा है, अपने कर्मों से।
गलत कैसे, मतलब बिजनेस करना गलत, मेरे मतलब स्टॉक बिजनेस गलत,
ठीक है ना प्रभु, ऐसा तो देखो, मैं ये नहीं बोला ना, आप देखो मैंने एक एग्जांपल भी दिया था, आपको याद है कि एक ब्राह्मण रहता है, एक वैश्या रहती है आमने सामने, और उनका डेस्टिनेशन कहाँ जाता है, वैश्या अपना काम कर रही है, अब ब्राह्मण दिन भर उसके बारे में चिंतन करते रहता है, वो कितना गलत काम कर रही है, और वो जाता है नरक में, और वो वैश्या अपना काम कर रही है, चाहे वो गलत काम हो, परंतु वो सोचती है ब्राह्मण कितना शुद्ध है, दिन भर वेदों का पाठ करते रहता है, वो उसके बारे में चिंतन करते करते वो पहुंच गई स्वर्ग। हाँ,
तो माता जी
तो इसीलिए तो चिंतन को तो ब्रेक करना ही पड़ेगा ना प्रभु, एट द स्टेज ऑफ चिंतन ओनली यू विल हैव टू से वेदर आई कैन डू दिस। सो शी इज थिंकिंग अबाउट कृष्णा बाय रिमेम्बरिंग दैट पर्टिकुलर पंडित, एंड दैट पंडित इज ओनली रिमेम्बरिंग अबाउट द अनवांटेड एक्टिविटी।
वही कंक्लूजन में यही कह रहा हूँ कि हमें सिर्फ बोलना नहीं है, चिंतन भी करना, मतलब
हाँ, दैट इज व्हाट मैं बोला है, यश स्मरण मात्रेण, ये सब क्यों बोला फिर मैं?
आप सिर्फ चिंतन का मतलब ये
नहीं, आप यश सबको स्मरण को आप कृष्णा चलो ठीक है,
तो आपकी वजह से क्रिकेट बहुत फेमस हो गया है।
चलो ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम। राग-द्वेषा-विमुक्तैस्तु विषयान indriyaiś ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā prasadam adhigacchati। ओके, इंग्लिश में ट्रांसलेशन पढ़ता हूं, बट अ पर्सन फ्री फ्रॉम ऑल अटैचमेंट and aversion and able to control his senses through regulative principles of freedom can obtain the complete mercy of the Lord. So Krishna today started answering Krishna is continuing to answer Arjuna's fourth question, because this is all Sthita Pragya's person, how does he control senses, and now today controlling senses will come with some kind of regulations. So that will continue now. Till now regulations were not there in picture. Now regulations will come into picture. That's where today vidheyātmā word has come. So he is answering the fourth question, Rajeta Kim. Okay, जो हमने 54 में अर्जुन ने प्रश्न पूछा था, Rajeta Kim. Rajeta Kim means how does he move about? Okay, how does a self-realized person moves in this world, or a sthita pragya person, how does he engage his senses in this world in a harmonious way and not in a disruptive way? आगे देख, not in a harmonious way, not in a disruptive way. So this will be answered from today 64. Krishna starts answering up to 72 on the Vrajeta Kim concept. Okay. So rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais too. Vimukta means what? Freed, right? Vimukta, मुक्त होना, पूरे विशेष रूप से मुक्त होना, freed. थोड़ा भी attachment है तो नहीं. Vimukta means free, पूरा, completely free, putting aside. Tu means किंतु, मीन्स अभी तक किंतु जब वर्ड का भी यूज किया जाता है जब स्पेशली पिछले टॉपिक से जो बोला है उससे और उससे ऑपोजिट में या फिर उसके अगेंस्ट में कुछ खास कर बोलना है. तो राग द्वेष विमुक्तैस्तु, वन हु इज मीन्स वन हु इज फ्री फ्रॉम अटैचमेंट एंड डिटैचमेंट. अब द्वेष समटाइम्स पीपल विल से बता ईर्ष्या से कनेक्ट करते हैं. द्वेष इज यहाँ पे डिटैचमेंट और वी कॉल इट एज aversion. So attachment and aversion. So how one means like setting aside this attachment and detachment through the viṣayān from the sense objects. So setting aside this attachment and detachment from the sense objects. Indriyaiś caran, sense movement or senses acting upon the senses. That is indriyaiś caran, the movement of senses or acting on senses. So how a person can free from attachment and detachment of senses acting upon their sense objects. खेलते जाना क्रिकेट ना प्रभु को. So a person cannot keep idle. A person he cannot keep idle. Okay. He needs to keep moving about. So in this moment, how does he keep himself free from attachment and aversions? That is being spoken today. So that is what part of it, Prabhu's this thing will cover today, because when you are playing, you are moving about. So that will get covered today. So ātma-vaśyair, vidheyātmā. ātma-vaśyair, bringing it under control, full control. ātma-vaśyair, full control of the self. You can call him. किसी के वश में कराइए, उसके वश में हो गया, बोलते हैं वशीकरण जो बोलते हैं. अब यहाँ कृष्ण यूज कर रहे हैं ātma-vaśyair, जो अपने सेल्फ के कंट्रोल में. अपने सेल्फ के कंट्रोल में नहीं है तो दिन भर ही चलता रहेगा उसका. ātma-vaśyair vidheyātmā वर्ड यूज किया. और आगे vidheyātmā मतलब विधि, मतलब क्या होता है? विधि मीन्स procedure, right? Procedure. And we are talking about scripture, so we'll call that a scriptural procedure, right? Scriptural rules and regulations. Okay, विधि का मतलब होता है, हाँ, विधि भक्ति करते हैं लोग, वेदी भक्ति करते हैं, तो रेगुलेशंस में भक्ति करते हैं. हाँ, हम लोगों को सबको वेदी भक्ति करने के लिए एडवाइस किया गया. रागा भक्ति हम अभी कर नहीं सकते. रागा भक्ति कौन करता है? केवल वृंदावनवासी. वृंदावनवासी बोलते आप भौम वृंदावनवासी मत ले लो, बिकॉज जो एक्चुअल वृंदावन है वहां के वासी. क्योंकि राग ओके, यहाँ के भी वृंदावन के लोग हैं, कई लोग ऐसे आप देखोगे तो वो अपने राग में रहते हैं. मैं तो कृष्ण का सेवक हूं, मैं तो उनकी पटरानी हूं, मैं तो उनकी गोपी हूं. ऐसा आपको बहुत मिलेंगे वृंदावन में. हमें कभी भी वैसी भक्ति करने का एडवाइस नहीं दिया गया है, क्योंकि उसमें फिर कुछ भी लाइक राग में इट्स अ हाई लेवल भक्ति विच वी कैन नॉट प्रैक्टिस. ओनली वृंदावन वासीज कैन प्रैक्टिस. सो विधि भक्ति इज समथिंग विच इज under regulations. So bhakti under regulations. So one who follows scriptural rules and regulations is vidheyātmā. Prasadam adhigacchati. Prasadam is what he gets the prasad. Adhigacchati is he gets the prasad. Now prasad is generally the term used in the eatable remnants of the offerings made to the Lord. We had offered a bhoga to the Lord and we get prasad. That is what is being, in terms of general terms, when you say prasad, it is referred to that. But the specific application of the word means, of course, that is one of the specific application. You put bhoga and you get prasad. That's a specific application. But essentially what it means here when it says prasadam adhigacchati, मतलब वो प्रसाद मिलेगा नहीं, वो तो मिलेगा. But यहाँ पे कहने का मतलब है you get the mercy of the Lord, Krupa of the Lord. You get mercy of the Lord. And when the person attains the mercy of the Lord, he attains purity by that mercy. So we are purifying ourselves through these regulations in controlling the senses. Regulations in the sense they are all related to senses. And when we associate ourselves doing all this matpara with Krishna, okay, which Krishna, because matpara already said in 61, so we can say that, we can fix the consciousness on Krishna, then you get the prasad, mercy of him. So the sequence here is that, what you have to understand is that by following higher rule, by following the higher guidance, or by following the higher instructions, we get higher benediction. So this is the sequence of today's shloka. That is what it means. So the higher instruction is given by the word vidheyātmā. When we follow scriptural rules and regulation, we get Krishna's benediction in the form of purification. Why do we take Hare Krishna Maha Mantra? Why do we chant? For our purification. We have a lot of dirt accumulated in our heart, mind, chitta, consciousness. So that has to be clarified. That has to be removed. So we get that purification. Okay, so that purification then we get in the form of attraction to Krishna. So that's what when we say don't get attached to any kind of material activity, you don't get attached to this, you don't get attached to that, you do it matpara to Krishna. So indirectly what you're doing, you're leaving this attachment and you are getting yourself attached to Krishna. So at least that is where when you attach yourself to Krishna, from what the material activity you are getting the impurity, that same thing when you attach it to Krishna, you start getting the mercy. So, you start getting this mercy. So, it reminds me of that Damodar, how many times we took that katha, the two fingers of that Damodar. What that two fingers represented. One was your efforts. So you should not think that, I should not make any efforts. You have to make your efforts in Krishna consciousness. And that is the second finger is you get the mercy of the Lord. So in mercy of the Lord, you get purity of within yourself. So that is, and then this in charan means what? Charan means? Okay, अपने चरण. So किस काम में रहते हैं? Moving about है ना, चलने के लिए. So they're moving about or acting upon. When you talk अपने इंद्रियों के क्या चरण होते हैं? तो इंद्रियों के चरण जो है for acting upon. For acting upon. So when we move about in this world, when we are going in a particular direction, not necessary, okay, you're going through your legs in one direction. Not necessary your mind is also going in that direction. It may go in different direction. Not necessary your nose is going in that direction. Somewhere some aroma has come of some good thing and your nose starts going there. Mind automatically diverts to that. So our mind starts going in different direction. We are going, मेरे को जाना है ऑफिस, आना mind जा रहा है क्रिकेट खेलने. Cricket का example. So different directions of sense objects. So indriyaiś, viṣayān, indriyaiś charan. So what happens in that? We get entangled. We cannot do Krishna Arpanam, so we'll get entangled. And we get sidetracks from the work which we want to go. Jis kadam pe, jis raha par hum chal pade hamare kadam, and mind divert hone se, we get lost on the track. We lose the track. Or we become on the, the blank sided. So we have to be very careful. So we have to be careful, and this happens. So what is the solution? That is where, while walking, in the sense, when you are moving about in your life, you have to work. Krishna did not say sit idle. He said you have to work. So working along, playing along, how do you keep your senses under control? So this is being spoken. Rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais. Raga and dvesha, just keep them aside. attachment and detachment, Krishna says first thing is keep them aside. So you all know, we all have certain attachments and certain detachments. Like, हमें कुछ चीज पसंद है, हम खाना चाहते हैं, या कुछ चीज पसंद है, हम वहां जाना चाहते हैं. हमें कुछ चीज नहीं पसंद है, बिल्कुल भी नहीं खाएंगे, है ना, बिल्कुल भी नहीं खाएंगे. करेला कितने लोगों को नहीं पसंद है? कितने लोगों को नहीं पसंद? हाथ उठाइए, कोई चिंता मत कीजिए. नहीं पसंद है, बस एक दो ही है. सरप्राइज हुआ, मेरे को लगा 10-15 लोग रहेंगे. ना ना ना, मैं बना के खिलाता हूँ इसीलिए. तो नहीं, जो खाने वाले करेला वो खाना सीख जाएंगे. मैंने को लगा बहुत सारे लोग हाथ उठाएंगे. करेला बिल्कुल कड़वा होता है.
खरा हो तो फिर नहीं पसंद नहीं होता, लेकिन तो मीठा करना चाहिए.
मीठा नहीं करेंगे, मीठा नहीं करेंगे. मीठा नहीं करेंगे, करेले की सब्जी बना के खिलाएंगे.
आपको मीठा करके खाते हैं.
आपकी चाशनी में डुबो कर
यही होता है, इसमें तो डुबो के रखते हैं.
So we cannot completely go away for attachments and detachment, है ना. कभी कभी जैसे करेला प्रसाद में आ ही गया तो थोड़ा सा खाना ही पड़ेगा ना. So we completely cannot go away with our attachment and detachments, right? So, but we have to but we have to remember that, okay, we should not completely go away, because we cannot completely go away with our attachment or detachment, but we should see to it that, it does not blow us away from our purpose. But it should not blow us away from our purpose. That is the sutra. So we don't have, we don't have to let them control us completely. We need to have a balanced perspective. Attachment, if they are trying to control us, no. Like, we should have a balanced perspective. Okay, we cannot say no to everything. We cannot say yes to everything. We should have that balanced perspective. And how is that balanced perspective possible? Guess, how is that balanced perspective possible?
Transcendental activity.
Transcendental activity, discrimination. Okay.
ये एक श्लोक भी हमने पढ़ा था कि अगर सेंसेस को फिक्स करना है, 60 था पता है, इसमें दो तरीके देखे. अगर आप कंट्रोल नहीं कर पाए, या तो आप उसको, जैसे कोई पैशन है मुझे, मैं उस चीज को अवॉइड करना चाहता हूँ, मैं आर्टिफिशियली कोई ऐसी चीज करूंगा, उस टाइम के लिए मेरा ध्यान हट जाए उस चीज से. तो वो उन्होंने उसमें श्लोक में था कि ये आर्टिफिशियली है, फिर आगे जाके आप उसमें फिर फंस जाओगे. तो बेस्ट यही है कि आप सरेंडर करें कृष्णा को, आप ट्रांजिशनल एक्टिविटी.
Transitional. Yes, barabar. That is one of the aspects. Yes. So this is where exactly Krishna ki activity ko when you surrender, you were saying is decision. That's what using your buddhi. Okay, that is also fine. I discriminate. So how do we have that balanced perspective? Is that it's possible when we let our principles make our decisions and not our moods and emotions make the decision. If we let our principles, what principles we follow? Our principle is we have to become a good cricketer. Principles should be there, right? Okay, then practice a lot. Keep praying till you become perfect. So there should be a principle which should rule and not based on our moods and emotions. Because chanchalami mana Krishna, you cannot control the mind. So your moods may swing. Every now and then it may swing. So rāga-dveṣa are the moods and emotions. Raga and dvesha are moods and emotions, and we should see that the same thing which is like today may not be there tomorrow. Because raga and dvesha are like that. And the same thing which we dislike today, we may start liking tomorrow. हमारे जीवन में होता है कि हमें आज मीठा पसंद नहीं है, हम खाना शुरू कर देते हैं आगे चल के, और हम मीठा बहुत खाते हैं, आगे चल के खाना छोड़ देते हैं. कई कारण हो सकते हैं. So these are on the moods and swings. Okay, medical reasons से छोड़ना पड़े अलग बात है, but moods and swings के हिसाब से. So mood कभी भी change हो सकता है. Okay, generally this is प्रेमा से कनेक्ट कर देते हैं. रागा एंड द्वेषा, पीपल कनेक्टेड विद प्रेमा, है ना. टुडे आई हैव अ प्रेमा ऑन दिस गर्ल, आई मैरिड दिस गर्ल. मेनी लव मैरिजेस हैपन, लाइक आई मैरिड दिस गर्ल, but somehow or the other I developed dvesha on her, I divorced her. I got prema on somebody else and I married her. So such kinds of mood swinging, raga and dvesha, are not at all going to hurt, help you out. That is why this kind of prema is never called prema, it is called the kama. इसीलिए भौतिक जगत में इसको प्रेम का शब्द ही नहीं बोला गया, इसको काम शब्द इसलिए बोला गया। तो काम, ये जो है ना, इवन हमें एक लड़की से प्यार हो गया बोलते हैं, प्यार नहीं हुआ है तुझे, लस्ट हुआ है। प्रेम तो केवल और केवल ट्रांसेंडेंटल एक्टिविटी के ऊपर होता है। दैट इज व्हाट राधा कृष्ण प्रेम जिसको हम बोलते हैं, वो सर्वोच्च प्रकार का प्रेम है। भगवान के प्रति प्रीति प्रेम, वो सर्वोच्च प्रकार का प्रेम है। तो बाकी तो ये सारा लस्ट है। तो ये लस्ट हमें आज और कल बबूले की तरह इसके ऊपर वी मे हैव lust on one particular thing and we may have lust on some other particular thing. So like, and Srila Prabhupada was taking class on this only, 1968. He was taking on 19th December. So we are near about in that. So when he was taking on this class, then he said, we cannot keep our eyes closed. Okay, I will not see the woman. I'll just close my eyes and go. I cannot see the woman. And neither you can say, no, I'll go and sit on Himalayas and just meditate. Srila Prabhupada says you cannot close your eyes. So it is better that, that's not a complete solution. Okay, you may have for some time, okay, you have gone for some meditation camp and all those, that's fine. You cannot go every time. So just, Srila Prabhupada says, just dovetail to Krishna sitting at the same place. Just dovetail to Krishna, don't have attachment then. I have attachment to Krishna rather than, okay, beauty is there. Just get connected with beauty. Oh, Krishna is so beautiful. And so maybe, that beauty has come to her. That will transform your lust into love slowly, like, purification stage. And that is where we said love. Love is only for Radha and Krishna only we say love. So bhava would be, yes, Krishna is given. So, when same thing, like, when you say, when you have already married a girl and when you divorce her and you want to marry a different girl, so in that case, the bhava should be what? When you say dovetail to Krishna, okay, Krishna has given me this wife. Okay, we had been married as per the vidhi vidhan. Okay, विधि विधान भी आएगा इसलिए बोल रहा हूँ। विधि के साथ में हमने शादी भी कर ली है, कृष्णा की मर्जी थी शायद इसके साथ शादी करना है, सो आई नीड टू टेक हर along with me and go. Why should I think of divorce? Because even if your mind is attached on now got attached to some different woman, because you're not attached to Krishna, because if you are attached to Krishna, the words, rules and regulations you would know that I don't have to wow लेते आप शादी के समय, मैं बाकी पराई स्त्री के ऊपर ये नहीं देखूंगा, सेवन वचन यू टेक एंड ऑल दोस, उसके अंदर एक वचन होता है कि मैं अपने पत्नी को छोड़कर किसी अन्य स्त्री को उस नजर से नहीं देखूंगा, ना बहन माता उस रूप में देखूंगा, वो वन ऑफ द वचन रहता है। तो वचन भूल गए तो दूसरी लड़की को देख के तुम्हें राग और द्वेष हो रहा है। सो लेट मी स्टे कनेक्टेड विद माई वाइफ, व्हाई शुड आई गिव डिवोर्स टू हर? बिकॉज इट वॉज कृष्णाज विल. So let me not venture into the other one. If I venture into the other one, maybe what will happen? We don't know her. Paradharmo bhayavaha. Going ahead, Krishna will say, आप दूसरा कार्य करोगे, आप जो कार्य कर रहे हो एटलीस्ट उसमें सेटिस्फाइड रहो, वो करते जाओ। आपको समझ में नहीं आ रहा है वो कार्य करोगे तो शायद आपके लिए भयावह हो सकता है, तो हो सकता है वो जो दूसरी आने वाली है वो भयावह हो सकती है इससे भी ज्यादा। So don't get to this attachment and detachment concept of, okay, Krishna has given you a wife, okay, stay with her, try to engage, you may have differences of opinion because ultimately two jivas have come together and purva karmas have brought you together. So when purva karmas are brought together, you have to just make adjustment and go on. So the changing position of raga and dvesha is called fleeting. That's what we said. This person is a fleeting person. It's short-time aspect. It's a short-time aspect. The mind is restless and the mind's reaction to things is also flickering. And because of that, we are not sure sometimes how to deal with such situations. And that's a challenge, actually. That's a challenge. So rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais, we need to free that from. Then what will happen? Viṣayān indriyaiś caran. Then viṣayān indriyaiś caran. So we don't let the senses to go towards sense objects just based on our default attachment and aversions. Because
तो वहाँ पे इवन इन महाभारत अर्जुना या फिर they had multiple wives as well, right? So how does this connect to it?
Okay, because I took this example, that is not said in Bhagavad Gita right now, Prabhu. One thing is, I took this example based on our current trends. I said this example. Okay, if we if you take in this particular world, why do we have to go to Mahabharata? If you come to this part of the world, they are allowed to marry 4 times. Okay. Similarly, multi-wife concept was there in India, in our Sanatan Dharma also. People had many wives also, if they could have maintained. But that, not necessary, that second wife had come only on account of the attachment or, lust kind of concept which was developed. Maybe what happens, because a person had, conquered other kingdom, the other kingdom now, they used to, they already surrendered. Now, instead of that, now surrender, they make it as divine by giving their daughters to their wedding to the king who is already, valorous, or who is already fought and who is won. So they marry, or he is very wise man. He is known for his virtues. So because of his virtues, they say, okay, we are giving you this wife. And okay, if it is once she has already thought about it being an husband, then okay, then it has already come in her mind, then, they used to give and they used to marry. So in that way, Prabhu, it is not necessary. So we should not allow our moods and emotions to dictate. Now, today's scenario, of course, it is legal, not lawful that we have to marry second time. I talk about Indian concept. So we cannot marry for the second wife unless we have divorced the other wife. So for that reason, you divorce and take. So that is, you are creating unnecessary conflict. And that mood, we said, you don't have to go beyond the moods and this thing which is mentioned about this example. That don't get attached unnecessary, because you already have a wife. So you better stay with it. Okay, you are यशस्वी, इतने आप यशस्वी हो कि आपके लिए 2-3 पत्नियां ऐसी आ रही है, तो वो अलग बात है.
वो ले ले.
हाँ, बट आप अलाउड है तो ले लो, यहाँ वाले लेते ही है यश के चक्कर में. बट देन इट्स ओके, इट्स लाइक ऐसे आती थी 2-3 पत्नियां जो भी आती थी वैसे आती थी.
नहीं, कभी पसंद की शादी थी.
हाँ, हो सकता है, ये नहीं हो सकता. तो सामने वाले का ये रहती थी, सामने वाली भी ओके करती थी. प्रभु यहाँ पे जरूर नहीं, आज के डेट में वैसा होता है.
एक्चुअली हम लोग, मैंने देखा कि हम लोग ना सिर्फ काम को सिर्फ इसी काम से सोचते हैं. काम सिर्फ ये नहीं है जो हम लोग सोचते हैं ना, कि हमारे जब भी काम की एग्जांपल आती है, लोग शादियों तक ही रह जाते हैं. काम किसी भी चीज की हो सकती है, किसी भी चीज.
लस्ट इज एनीथिंग.
आपका कोई
नहीं, क्रिकेट का एग्जांपल लिया, वो भी लस्ट ही है प्रभु, चिंता मत करो.
हमारे यहाँ एग्जांपल 10 जब भी वर्ड आता है तो हम हमेशा उधर ही पहुंच जाते हैं.
So the question is, that is easier to explain sometimes. That's the whole thing. Because law है, एक ही मैरिज कर सकते हो. It is easier to explain. और घर ना टूटे unnecessary. That's easier to explain, प्रभु. Nothing else.
तो क्वेश्चन आते हैं भाई, अगर वो आप दो वाइफ बीवी है, वो एडजस्ट नहीं हो पा रहे, इट्स लाइक लाइफ इज अ हेल.
Okay.
तो क्यों आप उसको बोल लो कि आप कृष्णा की मर्जी एक्सेप्ट करो?
ना. So first of all, you have to try to be, because see, अपने सनातन धर्म में कभी भी डिवोर्स नाम की चीज नहीं थी. Now today you have to take that.
Exactly. But सनातन धर्म ये भी मना नहीं करता कि चेंजेस ना करें.
हाँ, चेंजेस ना करिए.
वक्त के साथ उसके सब चेंजेस.
हाँ, यही
भगवान कंटिन्यू.
So see, that's what we should not let our senses to go towards sense objects just based on our default attachment. Now, what was default attachment? You understood this, Prabhu? What is default attachment? What did you understood about default attachment?
Yes. So the one which you mentioned was completely transactional. It has nothing to do.
No, I understood.
Love.
This default attachment was spoken in the previous shloka, where the brain maps particular thing. As I said, the example of computer, it loads attached default programs. Similarly, brain gives out default options. and it gives to the lower side because it has enjoyed that. So that is the reason. So we should not just direct our senses towards sense objects just based on our default options. Basically, we are moving about in this world, but we do not let our senses and sense objects move the same way as they want. Like going to that chariot metaphor. Okay, we took the chariot metaphor in the previous shlokas. So we don't let the horses go wherever they want to go. So when we want them only to go straight, what do? You tie them. है ना? उनके घोड़ों के वो डालना पड़ता है. वो डालोगे नहीं तो आजू बाजू देखेगा और वो बितक जाएगा. So that is where now control is coming. Okay, that time we just spoke. Somehow or the other we have to control. That control is being spoken by Krishna today. So you have to put those, otherwise they'll get. So we maintain control by closing the sides flaps of the eyes. And by that control, we'll be able to control ourselves also, because the horse will not get diverted anywhere. What we took the example that horse somehow or the other sees the other fruit and goes and falls into the ditch, for catching that fruit. So that is where we'll have to take all types of controls, which has been mentioned. So ātma-vaśyair. So for us also such type of control, ātma-vaśyair. So rather than going into the vash of raga and dveṣa, rather than letting ourselves to be full control in raga and dveṣa, we should let ourselves in full control for the values of that particular purpose for which we are. We have to let ourselves into raga-dveṣa for the values or for the purpose of what they are. vidheyātmā. vidheyātmā means वो आत्मा जो विधि follow करती है, अर्थात one who follows scriptural rules and regulations. Now very important principle. Now very important principle here to understand is that material regulation. See now Prabhu's point will come. Very important is that this material regulations, we say no, don't do this because scriptural rules and regulations, तुम्हें शराब नहीं पीना है, चाय कॉफी नहीं पीना है, so some kind of scriptural rules and नशा नहीं करना है, चाय कॉफी नहीं बोला, नशा नहीं करना है. तो this principles, the material regulation, when you do the principle is that the material regulation is the launching pad for spiritual liberation. You have to understand this. This is the principle here. The material regulations is the launching pad for spiritual liberation. Why? Because we are vidheyātmā, following the rules and regulations based on the scriptures, not on our wish, on our mind, based on vidheyātmā, based on the scriptural things. Often when we talk about scriptural rules and regulations, what happens? That we should do this, we should not do this. So when you constrain your life in this way, what is it going to happen? It is going to choke you from many enjoyable things sometimes. है ना? It is going to choke you from many enjoyable things. चाय नहीं पीना बोल रहे हैं यार, हद हो रहा है. It is going to choke you. So how to deal with such things? Actually speaking, the problem is that we are only thinking about the life from one perspective. And that perspective is that I have been told to give up. लोगों को बस यही याद रहता है that I have been told to give up, that's why I give up. But when we talk about material regulations, it is vidheyātmā. The purpose is not just restriction or deprivation, but the purpose is elevation. So when we say you follow scriptural rules and regulation, we are not limiting you for enjoyment. Rather, we are giving you the purpose of elevating yourself. Just like a person who keeps, who goes, abhi kahan gaye the? Kahan jaake aaya? Tabuk. What is there in Tabuk, Prabhu?
The weather was good. So
weather and some hill area or what? So that's what. So if you are going around a hill, okay, if you are going around a hill and if you are just going the circumference around the hill, okay, and then just roaming about, will you be able to enjoy? Okay, you might have enjoyed, okay, just going across the hill and all those, okay. But now, when I say, what you're going just across the hill, can't you just climb up the hill? Maybe you are searching some flowers and fruits going across the hill. Just climb up the hill. You may find much, much more beautiful flowers or sceneries or, or fruits. Right? So, when I said you that, I've given you a purpose for elevation and much better enjoyment than what if you are clicking only photos from this ground floor rather than on the top cliff. They're different. So you will enjoy, you will mesmerize that more better than this. So like that, the purpose of the scriptural rules and regulations which ask us to keep our material activities, material indulgence in check is not to deprive us, but to focus on elevating our consciousness. And when we elevate our consciousness, then actually we experience much better happiness. So rather than focusing on what we have to give up, focus on what we can do, on what the opportunity I have to utilize. Okay, now in that scenario, I can tell about that share. Okay, the share is probable to pick up. The share market is probable to pick up. I have the option. I invest in this particular shape. It goes up. I encash and I just forget. There is no attachment, and that finishes with the detachment. Okay, it had gone down. Maybe it was okay. It was supposed to go down. I expected it to go up. Maybe it was supposed to go down. I have to accept this. I had a loss and finish. But you cannot keep on doing that. Okay, the person doing business will come on that different issue. Okay, how he has to do and all those. So when I say 4 regulatory principles, because ISKCON mostly speaks of 4 regulatory principles, right? So I'm not going to involve, what are those 4 regulatory principles? No meat eating, including tea and coffee. No meat eating, including onion and garlic. No intoxication, including tea and coffee. No gambling. And no illicit sex. Okay. So, okay, I am not going to do any sinful activity. And then once we close on that mental option, I am not going to do any illicit activity. I'm not going to do gambling. Okay. Okay, other 2 are still there with me. Okay, I do take tea, coffee, I do eat onion, garlic. Okay, those 2 are there with me. So I leave it there with you, but we'll come back on that also. Okay, I'm not doing the sinful activity. Our mental option is closed there. Then our mind, once you close that, then our mind starts opening, looking for something higher. Once you close one particular option, जैसे मुझे अब जुआ नहीं खेलना है, when you close that option, then your mind will open up your something for higher elevation. अच्छा ठीक है भाई, मैं लॉन्ग रन के लिए थोड़ा बहुत इन्वेस्ट करके रख देता हूँ. It will open up because I don't have to. I've taken that. I want to be averse of that. Now, what's that higher thing? Ultimately, this is material higher thing. Similarly, when you progress in ladder, ultimately, what will be the highest thing is prema, Krishna prema. We say Krishna prema, you can say supreme liberation. Ultimately, that is what it is. Ultimately, it is the supreme liberation, which is the highest. So, in this way, and already Krishna has said Matpara. So, when you attach everything to that supreme, then you are purifying yourself. So, let me fix my mind on Krishna, and then by fixing the mind on him, let me elevate myself so that eventually I can attain him. And in this way, our consciousness gets the opportunity to move upwards. Now, when you attach to Krishna, I said scriptural rules and regulations comes in. All those things which cannot be applied to Krishna cannot be. So, better be away from that or be limited to that. Because as I said, I cannot completely know, but then, see to it that, how best we can dovetail it to Krishna. Now, all situations we cannot discuss. It will have to come to you as this thing. Oh, this is within the scriptural rules and regulation, tick mark. Okay, we'll do it. But it is not suitable for us. Let's do a little bit and forget it. So this way, whatever Like, it's same thing. Like, so that is why I said this material regulations is a launching pad for the spiritual liberation, become transcendental activity. So material regulation will only help you to launch. Like example, this satellite, when it has to be launched, what do you need? Launching pad. That is what I said. Material regulation is a launching pad for spiritual liberation. So when the rocket needs a launching pad, and when it is launched from that pad, what happens? It moves forward. And how does it move forward? Some principle is there in that, right? Contraction and propulsion method. That's what they say. I just heard it, I'm telling you. So rocket, when it moves, it is, like contraction and propulsion method. It just fires into the escape velocity. So this contraction and propulsion method is what is, the material regulation. Then the power of our desire becomes concentrated on elevating the consciousness. When you contract and when you have attachment and detachment, and then on this material regulations based on vidheyātmā, then automatically it takes time. So as the launching pad also, with the same contraction and propulsion method, if that schedule gets disturbed, that rocket would fall down. But if that is perfectly managed, then it can escape the velocity of the earth and go into the higher realm. Similarly, this material regulations, once we start doing regulations in our life, it acts as a launching pad and helps us to liberate ourselves to the Supreme. So, long back Krishna had already said, right? Vyavasayatmika buddhihi eke karunandanaha. You have vyavasayatmaka buddhi, only one. You don't have two buddhis. And your buddhi has to become vyavasayatmika. And that is where we said, that was the trending point. Your life, everything depends on whether you have become from Bahushakha to vyavasayatmika. If you have not become vyavasayatmika, Bhagavad Gita, you will never be able to understand. Because everything is based on vyavasayatmika buddhi, and once vyavasayatmika buddhi, you become sthita pragya, and sthita pragya has to do what all things already Arjuna asked, and that is all helpful for us. So, eke karunandana, Krishna had already talked in 2.40, the power of our desire. So, power of our desire should be, ultimate desire should be Krishna. Because I can talk about it Krishna, because 2.61 already Krishna said, Matparaha. So our ultimate purpose, desire should be Krishna. And once we, that I have to achieve Krishna, okay, you say Krishna, Shiva, whatever, ultimate desire is to achieve that particular Supreme, then certainly your propulsion, material, that is, regulations reaching to that Supreme would certainly be helpful. The same, rāga-dveṣa-vimuktais too. viṣayān indriyaiś. It will help you to propel yourself towards the Supreme. In this way, once you proceed, prasadam adhigacchati. Prasadam adhigacchati. Once we start rising upwards, we start getting mercy of the Lord in form of purification. When we have attached that particular activities to transcendental activities, we have just purified it. Okay, it had some vikrit roop and we just purified it by offering it to Krishna. So prasad generally has to be understood in three terms. One is, as I spoke, remnants. Okay, that is also prasad. No doubt about it. Okay, which we offer and then we have, because after every yajna there has to be prasad. After every yajna there has to be prasad. So when we do this Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam yajna, this is also yajna. I will come to know in the third chapter. So after the yajna, there has to be prasad. In the starting, many of them questioned me, why should we keep food? Just class. I said, no, yajna without prasad is nothing. It is. आप हवन कुंड में या अंत में आप बोलोगे नहीं पूर्णावती में मैं सारा कुछ नहीं डालूंगा, फ्रूट्स नहीं डालूंगा, प्रसाद नहीं डालूंगा. No use. You have to. Because without that, your yajna itself is not complete. It will in the 18th chapter you will come to know. 18th, 6th, 17th. 17th chapter. Krishna will already speak. I didn't know, it means like उसका मतलब नहीं रहता, उसका कोई फल नहीं रहता. Then second is prasad, that for Krishna's pleasure. When you offer bhoga to the Lord, it is for Krishna's pleasure, and then we have it as remnants as prasad. Second is prasad is for the pleasure of the world. You have many people doing manav seva. कितने लोग हैं? अच्छा, पंजाबी लोग तो कितने लंगर चलाते हैं? चलाते हैं ना? तो मानव सेवा. So, prasad for the public in general. And third, act for pleasure of the self. Act for the pleasure of the self. खुद के satisfaction के लिए भी रहना चाहिए. So all these three are covered just with one scriptural verdict. आप भी satisfy हो, ये दुनिया भी satisfy है. Okay, आप forget it. Bhoga to Krishna, I am not telling. दुनिया के लोगों को खाना खिलाना है, मुझे भी खाना खाना है, satisfaction होना है. Okay, या फिर purity, दुनिया के लोग purify हो जाओ, मैं भी purify हो जाऊं. So, एक ही सूत्र याद रखो. यस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत तुष्टो भवति ही. यस्मिन् तुष्टे jagat tushto bhavati hi. If the Supreme Personality of Godhead is satisfied, everyone in the jagat is satisfied. यदि भगवान प्रसन्न हो गए तो हर कोई प्रसन्न हो जाएगा. यदि एग्जाम्पल है, यू रिमेंबर द्रौपदी, the Akshay Patra story. So there was only one morsel of rice remaining. What did Draupadi suddenly? Krishna wanted that. And what did Draupadi say? Krishna, from the half, you satisfy yourself, and from the half, satisfy the entire world. Yasmin tushte jagat tushto bhavati hi. So in this way, when you make prasad for Krishna, entire general samaj can have it. If you have that much kind of capability. इसलिए मंदिरों में बहुत रहता था पहले. तो ये तो हो गया physical aspect of the prasad. And second aspect is you get purity. When you are doing for your own satisfaction and when you do it for the Lord's satisfaction, you are making that same activity as transcendental activity and you become pure. So the whole purpose of this raga and dveṣa-vimuktais is to not succumbing to attachment and aversion of regulating the movement of senses towards sense objects or keeping it under rules and regulation. It is just to raise our consciousness. Direct the power of our desire not horizontally but vertically towards Krishna. And the more closer we go to Krishna, ultimately we'll attain him also. Prasadam adhigacchati, we'll attain him also. We'll get that kind of purity, certainly. So here Krishna is saying, yes. So what is this? Ultimately, we have to be in this world. We have to act in this world. Okay, we need to use our senses, but keep the senses under regulation and keep the actions of the senses purposeful. Purposeful in the sense, focused on the goal. And goal we already spoke long back. It should be Krishna, of course. Going forward again, we'll more understand that also. When we have that purpose in mind, then we keep moving upwards towards Krishna and ultimately attain him. Okay, and result would be, and what is the result of this mercy is discussed in the 65th shloka. Prasāde sarva-duḥkhānāṁ. If you are thinking you are doing regulations and averting, and you will get prasad. So prasāde sarva-duḥkhānāṁ hānir asyopajāyate prasanna-cetaso yasu buddhiḥ paryavatiṣṭhate. For one, thus satisfied in Krishna consciousness, as I said, yasmin tushte jagat tushte, that jagat tushto I said, the threefold miseries of material existence no longer in such satisfied consciousness. one's intelligence is soon well established. This is the English translation. So, in 64, Krishna spoke of our molding our, or putting aside our raga and dvesha and regulating the contract of senses with sense objects to attain that prasada. That is Lord's mercy. So, Lord's manifest as purity, which subsides the impure desires. Lord कृष्ण का नाम ही नाम चिंतामणि यस्य सर्व पाप प्रणाशनम प्रणमो दुःख शमनम तम प्रणामी नमो तम प्रणामी पदम क्या हरिपदम तम प्रणाम हरिपदम. So Krishna's name itself is so pure that whatever impure things we try to attach, it is like a sun. So sun dries up everything. Pure and impure things on the matter. Similarly, when we attach those things to Krishna, automatically we'll get purity. So prasāde sarva-duḥkhānāṁ, when prasad is obtained, sarva-duḥkhānāṁ, when such prasad is obtained, sarva-duḥkhānāṁ, हमें सारे दुखों से छुटकारा मिल जाता है. All the material miseries ends. hānir asyopajāyate, defeat, destruction. Hani is defeat and destruction. Asyopajāyate, such misery ends. When you get the Lord's mercy, miseries ends. And prasanna-cetaso vyapu. Prasanna-cetaso means happy cetana, person. When we say cetana, a person becomes happy. He asu means certainly. Very soon, when he becomes happy-minded, buddhiḥ is intelligence, becomes paryavatiṣṭhate. Means that buddhi becomes well-situated. When you become that happy, then your buddhi will become well-situated or happily established. So, it's very interesting that Krishna said this word at the end, buddhi paryavatiṣṭhate. In the end, he has said this, buddhi paryavatiṣṭhate. श्लोक के आखिर में बोला है. उसके पहले का मतलब क्या है? That one has to follow the rules and regulations, जो पिछले श्लोक से, okay? And then one has to get the mercy of the Lord, and then one's intelligence becomes well situated. If those two things are not there, don't think that intelligence will become well situated. That's the reason that two fingers I said reminds me of Damodar. So, now, what does this mean? Of course, Damodar is an example which already we keep. Prabhu is new. Damodar probably you have not heard. We do it in the month of October, Prabhu. We go to everyone's house and we do Damodar Yatra. So what does this mean? Buddhi paryavatiṣṭhate in the end means, that means what? That we don't need intelligence first to follow scriptures or to put aside our attachment and aversions. We don't need intelligence. We need, right? Yes, we need them. But people generally think this intelligence as this digital clock, 0 or 1, or digital logic, either 0 or 1. That is not the case. You have to apply it in an analog logic. What is that analog logic? What is the meaning of analog? Continuity. Exactly. Continuity. Yeah, just stages wise. Stages wise.
Analog watch.
Analog. So it is not 0 or 1. Yes or no nahi hai. Okay, there are stages. Up to this stage is yes. This next stage is okay, yes. Third stage is yes. Oh, nahi, no, okay. Okay, still yes. So, we pass those stages, and that is how that analog activities gets fulfilled. So our intelligence grows always in analog way, not in digital way. So whatever little intelligence we have, with that we study scriptures. भगवान का नाम ही ले सकते हैं. वो तो लेने में कोई इंटेलिजेंस नहीं चाहिए. With whatever that limited name, क्योंकि भगवान का नाम लेना चाहिए, एटलीस्ट वो तो पता है, तो वो लेते रहिए. So whatever little intelligence we have, we study scriptures, then our intelligence becomes stronger. With our existing intelligence and our existing understanding of the scriptures, we start studying. Okay? That is okay. Studying is fine. But then once studying, we start living according to the scriptures. The stage will come, I mean, it's like, with whatever intelligence you usually start leading. One time you may not understand, second time you may not understand, third time you may not understand, you may have some discussions, this, that. Ultimately, you keep on reading. And then you accept those principles, what is being spoken of, and then you start living as per those principles. Then what happens? Then that scriptural intelligence will become our intelligence. अब जैसे होता है ना, एक बार बच्चों का एग्जाम्पल कुछ याद होगा कि ये पढ़ के दिखाओ, तो बोले पढ़ लिया मैंने, सुना हो तो सुना दिया, तो पढ़ लिया तो बुक से गायब नहीं हुआ ना, बुक का लॉजिक तो बुक में ही है, लेकिन आपका मेमोरी शार्प हो गया, आपने इंक्रीज कर लिया. मीन्स व्हाट वी स्टार्ट मीन्स द मोर वी स्टार्ट थिंकिंग the way the scriptures thinks, by reading and accepting those principles, we start living as per the principles. The more we start thinking the way the scripture thinks, then the scriptural wisdom doesn't remain borrowed wisdom, rather it becomes our assimilated wisdom. So when we go as per the rules and regulation, what is being said by scriptures, right now we are taking it's only like a borrowed wisdom. It is said in the scriptural rules, that's why I'm following. It doesn't remain there. It becomes our assimilated wisdom because we started living to that aspect. And that is what the previous shloka, material regulations, is the launching pad for this. Otherwise, it will never be able to. And and in this way, when the intelligence is internalized, when you assimilate to yourself, buddhi becomes paryavatiṣṭhate, buddhi becomes well situated. And for that internalization, there is a process, and that process involves application and purification all the time. Scriptural applications and purification. So first there is reception, that is receiving of the scriptures, okay? And then application of the scriptures based on vidheyātmā. And after reception, we naturally, we apply those. We receive Krishna's mercy after that. After that comes is Krishna's mercy. When we do principal application, Krishna's mercy. And there is purification. In purification, then we have realization. Purification is what? There is a realization. I was doing this unnecessarily. So, you come to that higher aspect. Okay. So realization, and that realization, we call it as internalization or assimilation also we call it as. Then that scriptural wisdom will not remain, just the scriptural wisdom, it will become our wisdom. So that's what is being described here in these two shlokas. The sequence from purification to internalization of wisdom. Prasāde sarva-duḥkhānāṁ. When we get the mercy of the Lord, hānir asyopajāyate, all the miseries goes away. अगर भगवान की कृपा मिली तो सारी आपकी परेशानियां चली जाएगी. All the miseries will go away. Threefold miseries. That's what we discussed before, right? All the threefold miseries. So, whether it is possible now, because all the miseries going away, is it possible? Okay, because in this world, we always experience misery. As long as we are here, scripture also says this. Scripture has also said in this world is dukkhalayam ashashvatam. There is always misery. Scripture has also said, okay. And we have to work still here. That is also scripture has said. We have to. So even if somebody is completely pure devotee, for example, even if he is a pure devotee, not me, okay. If he is a pure devotee who is in love with Krishna or who is doing like a sannyasi or anything we say, so there will be no miseries to him. No, there will be miseries. Janma mrityu jara vyadhi dukkha doshanu darshanam. These miseries will always be there. Ultimately, his death will also be there. So there will also be some, or there will be, he is being pure devotee. Death will also come for him. Or there will be some misunderstanding of that pure devotee with some other devotees also. There will be some misunderstanding also. And apart from this, adi daivik, adi bhautik, and adi adhyatmic kleshas. So, hānir asyopajāyate, that means what? तो इनके ऐसे हानि नहीं होती है, means what? When we talk about this, like, for example, when we are going by a car, okay, and the tire gets punctured, the puncture is what? It's an inconvenience. It's an inconvenience, okay. So we have to understand that misery, there is either inconvenience or pain. Okay, there is an accident, or say the tire puncture is a inconvenience. Suppose there's an accident and somebody's leg broke, that is a more than inconvenience. It is pain. It is pain or distress. Now, if someone identifies himself with the car or is so much attached to the car, then leave out puncture, even if there is a slightest scratch at the bumper, as if somebody has put क्या दिल पे छुरियां चला दी है वैसे, knives on the heart, they will feel like that if he is attached to all those. And if he is not attached, okay, लग गया है उसको, मुझे ठीक कराने का इंश्योरेंस है, ठीक करा लूंगा, नहीं तो फिर पैसा लगेगा, ठीक करा लूंगा. So in this way, his attachment level would matter. But there is this both aspect, pain as well as the inconvenience. The point here is that it's the attachment that determines the extent of our emotion, and even the misery that when we depend on the attachments we have. Attachment determines our extents of emotion, and even in the misery, that depends on the attachment we have. So when, by following the scriptural rules and regulation of the Lord, okay, when we say we are no longer attached there, or when we are when we don't have misidentification that with the body, rather with the soul, then automatically half of the miseries go away, because we know the problems are going to happen to this body. My soul is free, happy. What applies in our case is not, like in the case of that car, जो कार में स्क्रैच भी बर्दाश्त नहीं कर सकते. When you attach yourself to Krishna and something goes wrong at the material level, you either try to mend that particular thing, either you try to repair that particular car, you try to repair it, or if you have broken your hand, you try to at least go and get it operated, and again get back onto your normal work. So that doesn't mean that कई बार बोलते हैं ये तो बहुत पूजा पाठ करता था भाई, फिर भी इसको दुख कैसे हुआ. कई लोग ऐसा मेरे को have given that kind of feeling. खुद के लिए तो पूजा कर लिया करो ना, मेरे लिए थोड़ी करने का रहता है, खुद के लिए करने से थोड़ी कुछ होता है. प्रसादे सर्व-दुḥkhānāṁ, प्रसाद मिलेगा उनको मिलेगा. सारा दुख को आप प्रसाद समझते हो नहीं समझते हो आपके ऊपर है. सो ये शरीर भी एक व्हीकल ही है. शरीर भी एक व्हीकल है. 18.61 कृष्णा says, like यंत्रा रूढ़ानि मायया. This body is also a vehicle. The body has got damaged. Okay, try to repair it. हाथ पैर कट गया, टूट गया. Okay, try to repair it and again come to the service of Krishna. Or things may go severally wrong. किसी का साथ में it can happen severally wrong. We try to rectify those things. So the point is noted that these do not comprise of misery or attachment if we do not seek pleasure from those. अगर किसी attachment और detachment में आपको pleasure मिल रहा है, that will cause more misery. If you do not seek pleasure, then automatically that attachment and detachment will not give you dukkha. So it is the pleasure. इसलिए बोलते ना कि ये कहानी सुना होगा ना कि हम सांप, वो आता है कभी कभी व्हाट्सएप में, सांप एक मटकी, वो सांप ईगल सांप को लेके जा रहा था, सांप मटकी में गिर गया जहाँ खाना बन रहा था. वो खाना बनाने वाले ने ध्यान नहीं किया और उस खाने को खा के कई लोग मर गए. मेनी ऑफ देम डाइड. सो इवन हु इज रिस्पॉन्सिबल? वो वाज टेकिंग प्लेजर. एक दूसरे को चुगली कर रहा था, उसको प्लेजर को, उसको सारा दोषमंड दिया गया. So there has to be pleasure. So if you don't have pleasure and if you are just doing your act, okay, then at least you are hānir asyopajāyate. And that is where That comes through only by purity. When you do become transcendental, because of purity, one is so much spiritually advanced. Atmani eva atmanya. He starts looking within the self. He finds happiness within inside. We already 2.55 we already read, right? Atmanya eva atmani atmana tushtas. Atmanyeva atmana tushtas. The pragyas dodicate. One has to, instead of seeking happiness outside, one should seek the happiness inside, within. And because of the absence of external attachment, the misery goes off. Because you do not want to draw any kind of pleasure from that attachment, the misery automatically goes off and one automatically becomes liberated at that time also. So similarly, and now imagine the same principle going forward, Krishna will say at the time of death. If you do not have any kind of attachments and aversions at the time of death, then certainly you are going to enter his kingdom, into his kingdom of Godhead. And that is what, which was Padam Gacchanti Anamaya, which was spoken 4-5 slokas before, that you will attain the places of misery less. There are no miseries. So, hānir asyopajāyate, this also reference to the same thing, that आपको कोई प्रकार की तकलीफ नहीं होती है. तकलीफ कभी होगी जब आप कुछ उसमें pleasure लेना चाहते हो. When there's attachment and detachment, you have some kind of pleasure. When you do not want to, means like when that pleasure aspect is not there, then you start looking. When your pleasure रहता है external के लिए, and internally, when you go internally for the pleasure, then automatically outer pleasure is not contacted, and then you become pure. So you start purifying yourself. Prasanna-cetaso vyasu, the moment you that internalize that wisdom and then you start looking inside and feel happy inside, then prasanna-cetaso vyapo, then automatically that the soul which is prasanna-cetaso start manifesting. The nature of that soul is ananda, satchidananda, we know, right? Satchidananda, the nature of the soul is ananda. It is already inbuilt character. Default program already is there. But due to all other things, it has got jammed. Due to this material impurities, it has got jammed. So the soul is automatically, if it is always connected to the Krishna, who is always the reservoir of happiness, is Rama also, right? Rama, Hare Krishna, we say. Rama means what? Ramante yogino anante. One who gives unlimited happiness and pleasure. So when you find pleasure in him, then automatically all this, you will become prasanna-atma, prasanna-cetaso vyasu, means you will become joyful and happy. Brahma bhuta prasanna-atma, later on that will also come in. So, prasanna-cetaso vyasu, one becomes joyfully situated, then buddhiḥ paryavatiṣṭhate, then the buddhi or intelligence becomes fully, firmly situated. So as long as we are happily situated, our intelligence is always undermined by our search for pleasure, and because of our past conditioning and because of our past impressions, and in the mind, the search for pleasure usually directs us to the undesirable directions, pushes us to the undesirable materialistic avenues, and that is how we get degraded ourselves and entangle more and more. जितना भी आज मेरे ख्याल से शुरू में जो डिस्कशन हुआ उसका आंसर मैं दे रहा हूँ, होपफुली आगे, और हम खत्म कर लूँ उसके बाद डिस्कस करते हैं. मैं खत्म कर लूँ फिर उसके बाद डिस्कस करते हैं, बिकॉज अदरवाइज आप लोगों को लेट में पैरों का दुख रहा है, मेरे को भी लगता है. जस्ट आई कंप्लीट इन 2 minutes and then we'll just so you want me to repeat that? I have written that line. So as long as we are not happily situated, our intelligence is always undermined by our search for pleasure, and because of our past conditioning, past impressions in the mind for the search of pleasures usually direct us to the undesirable directions, pushes us to the undesirable materialistic avenues, and that's how we get degraded and entangled more and more. But when one is happily situated at the spiritual level, there is nothing to undermine the intelligence. So one becomes well situated in intelligence. The purity by mercy will help and not allow the soul to get dragged into the impure things, and the intelligence essentially means the capacity to differentiate between the pure and impure, between spiritual and material, between Shreya and Preya, between long term and short term. So that intelligence we initially get from scriptures. And when we live according to those scriptures, we receive Krishna's mercy. And by receiving the mercy, we become purified. Then that scriptural intelligence becomes our intelligence, and we become firmly situated at that stage and will not be shaken by any kind of temptations, and we can firmly, happily, joyfully stay in this world, marching towards our eternal happiness in the next world. So that is where Srila Prabhupada has written, like, when person does you see a bhakta doing the same kind of work, and an ordinary person also doing the same kind of work, but there is a difference. That's why Srila Prabhupada has written that very, unless you understand this, you will not be able to sometimes understand why Srila Prabhupada has written that, he may appear to be on sensual plane, but he has no attachment to sensual activities. A Krishna conscious person, a Sthita Pragya person. वो लग रहा है कि भाई material activity के काम कर रहा है, but he is not attached on the material activity. He is not attached to them. He is, though appears to be on the sensual plane, that is material plane, but he is not. He is only concerned with the satisfaction of Krishna and nothing else. Okay, now you come back to Prabhu, like if you want to play full day, whether you think Krishna will be happy or not, now it is up to you, whether scriptural intelligence will tell you that or not. It's not cricket, anything. You can put question there to yourself. If Krishna wants, he can do that anything ordinarily undesirable. That is where Arjuna initially did not want to fight. Krishna said, you have to fight. And he gave the entire Bhagavad Gita, of course. And he had to fight. Okay, but after understanding everything. Similarly, we understand scriptural assimilations, apply them in our life, and try to live. And then that scriptural things becomes our own intelligence. The scriptural intelligence becomes our own intelligence. That is why we say this material activities is a launching pad. If Krishna does not want, then one does not do that which he would have ordinarily done for his own satisfaction. That's why Srila Prabhupada has written. This is that purport key points I am reading in English. Prabhu read in Hindi. So on what strength does a devotee achieve this exalted position? By the causeless mercy, that is prasad of the Lord, which is a devotee can achieve in spite of being attached to on the sensual platform, appearing to be on the sensual platform, but he is getting the mercy of the Lord. And that mercy, once he gets, all these kinds of threefold miseries goes away because he doesn't have pleasure in them. He doesn't want the activities, okay, he's doing it, but pleasure. And in this way, the intelligence becomes well situated. Hare Krishna, आप कुछ पूछना है तो पूछ सकते हैं, नहीं तो ऑलरेडी हम तो बहुत लेट हो चुके हैं, किसी को डिस्कस करना है तो हम डिस्कस कर सकते हैं बाद में. हरे कृष्णा. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय.